bonus. This is Shoot Degrees topic number 6, and I promise we'll be done after this. It says, could his analysis of the diaspora in America be correct? This came with a link to YouTube. Short video, I think. Yeah, we'll watch it and then we'll discuss. What's going on here?
Or did they preserve their authentic African culture? And what Soul is saying is that they were robbed of their culture, and so they picked up the culture of the people around them, and the people around them were rednecks. And if you look at the white redneck culture and the black redneck culture, they have a lot of the same values. They don't particularly respect education. They love Jesus. They use violence in their conflicts. There's just, a lot of the same values and a lot of the same outcomes. And even Ebonics, which is, Black English, is actually all from the west of England. So it's actually this.
What?
It's from the west of England. So, for example, if you go to places like Cornwall, there used to be these amazing ads on British TV, right, for this Devon custard or whatever. And they would always say, Devon knows how they make it so creamy. And they all talk like this, right? And so it doesn't sound like Black English, but they do say things like, I be doing that, and we be doing this, and you be doing that, and they be doing that. And so there's that use of that copula be, right? There's always been a big question, were Black people robbed of their culture, or did they preserve their authentic African culture? And what Soul is saying is that they were robbed of their culture, and so they picked up the culture of the people around them, and the people around them were rednecks. And if you look at the white redneck culture and the black redneck culture, they have a lot of the same values. They don't particularly respect education. They love Jesus. They use violence in their conflicts. There's just, a lot of the same values and a lot of the same outcomes. And even Ebonics, which is, Black English, is actually all from the west of England. So it's actually this.
What?
It's from the west of England. So, for example, if you go to places like Cornwall, there used to be these amazing ads on British TV, right, for this Devon custard or whatever. And they would always say, Devon knows how they make it so creamy. And they all talk like this, right? And so it doesn't sound like Black English, but they do say things like, I be doing that, and we be doing this, and you be doing that, and they be doing that. And so there's that use of that copula be, right? There's always been a big question, were Black people robbed of their culture?
Okay. This kind of brings the show full circle, I guess. In the chat, Trigger says Soul is wrong. I don't know, man. That book, Cracker Culture, makes a compelling argument. Maybe you'd like to break it down. But in the meantime, for time's sake, just to keep it brief, Black Steel, what say you?
Man, I can't stand anything with Thomas Sowell in it. That man is wow. But anyways, no, he's not right. This whole deal about Black people not valuing education is a lie. So first of all, at the end of the Civil War, where basically Black people were mandated by the state to be uneducated. So once our ancestors, at least here in the U.S., once the moment they were free, they started founding Black schools, Black colleges, to the point to where we had a higher literacy rate in 50 years, higher than the white people around us. So this idea that Black people don't value education is simply not true. Black people value education more than white people did. You only start to see the issues with education once we have an integration. And Black people were systematically funneled into the school to prison pipeline. But this idea that Black people, that's a lie. Using the word be in language, that's something that's common. I think that's very common in many parts of Africa. I'm not an African linguist, but I speaking for myself or my family being Gullah Geechee, we definitely can trace back our linguistic history all the way back to even to Sierra Leone, or what is now Sierra Leone. So this dude, he's such a hack. No one ever brings out. He's an economist, but no one ever brings him out to talk about the economy. They only bring him out to shit on Black people, and all of a sudden, because he's a doctor or whatever the fuck he is, his words carry more weight. But he never has any standing in his field. I've never heard him push any type of economic theory. I've never heard him any critiques on the U.S. economy or global economy. It's just always talking shit about black people, and white people eat this nigga up. I can't fucking stand Soil. I'm sorry, I'm inventing, but people really take this dude. He's a hack. What is he? What is he? What is he published? What's standing? What economists cite his work? The only people who cite his work are racist white people when they want to talk shit about black people. I'll leave it there. Like, thank you.
I don't not agree with you. What I'm saying to trigger what I'm saying that trigger is, I guess, kind of commenting to the chat, and I'll read some of those comments in a second. I'm saying that proximity does influence your culture. Domination will influence your culture. I'm not saying that black folks in America wholesale got their whole flow line for line, bar for bar from these folks, but there's definitely, some copying or mirroring is the term they like to use about black mirroring. For example, when you listen to like a Southern black preacher, and I'll just leave this open ended, that cadence that he's preaching at, where did he get that from? And before you go to say something different, I'll remind you to look at Garvey's book, The Course on African Philosophy. Garvey himself learned a lot of his speech cadence, and I'm not giving someone else Garvey's credit, don't get me wrong, but he went and he studied this white guy. So a lot of black preachers went and studied these white folks, and they used that in their way of communicating their religious stances. So that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about there's a definite influence. I'm not saying it's the foundation of.
Well, I think you're right. There is some influence, but I think the African influence is always greater because many of our church services involve call and response. That comes straight from Africa. When a black person gets the spirit, when they get the Holy Ghost, how they act, how they mimic the way the spirit enters them, that's straight from Africa. That's white people, especially Europeans, when the way they related to their God, when they had their spiritual, they didn't do that. Most church services where white people are quiet. You rest in contemplation and prayer. So even the way we relate to Christianity has its own African forms. I think that Sowell, he overlooks so much to come to his conclusion. So I'm not saying that we weren't influenced. I mean, we're speaking English after all, right? So I'm not saying there's no influence, but I'm saying that he overstates it. To say that Ebonics comes from Cornwall in England, or that they're against authority because they picked up redneck culture, that's such a stretch to me.
All right. Yeah, thank you for that. Let's have from Oni. Again, let's keep it a little bit brief for time's sake.
Yeah, I could I mean, again, I don't know. I don't know if people were enslaved, and of course, African people were enslaved, but if people were enslaved and their overseers were the only people speaking English to them, chances are they would have adopted the English patterns of
Absolutely.
the overseers. I think that's the argument that he was making. I didn't read his book. I think I saw an excerpt, and the argument was that the overseers inflections and dialects or whatever was the adopted language. Now, the thing with language acquisition or language whatever is that it's mutual, and not just that too, but and of course, it's not necessarily mutual if they're doing it in Ireland, like he said, but uh there's yeah, I mean, I don't see the reason to dismiss an Irish influence. I don't see the reason to do that. I think obviously, there's an African influence as well. But I don't see the reason to dismiss an Irish influence. And I say that because, I don't know. I mean, I don't like to talk too much about it, but like literally, the people who owned or like the plantation that my family grew up on was Irish, like was Irish. You know what I mean? Like was Irish owned. So I don't see the like I don't know what black people would be saying by saying that they learned the language. Like they like we're all speaking English, right? Technically, right? We're all speaking English. So like I don't see like we obviously didn't get it from the Queen, or the English Queen. So I mean, yeah, we probably got it from overseers, we probably got it from enslavers, we probably got it from the worst group of white folk. And so when it comes to dialects, yeah, you will have a unique dialect based off of your unique experience, and it's not going to just be a purely African dialect anyway, because again, you're speaking an entirely different language. And so patois is, patois in Jamaica is going to sound different from patois in Trinidad, or it's going to sound different from pidgin in Nigeria. And there's a lot of different language influences that come into play. But everybody knows that everybody sounds different all over the world based off of their own unique experiences, and the unique experience inside of America is going to be that like the particular um class of enslavers and the particular class of overseers in particular. So I don't know what's so contentious about this idea, that possibly that this group of overseers influenced the language of African people in America. Because yeah, I mean, obviously the I mean, I think the Irish also had an influence in Jamaica, but they might not have had such a strong influence in Suriname, or you know what I mean, where the Dutch would have a bigger influence. And the same as how in Nigeria or inside of Angola, you might have a more Portuguese kind of pronunciation. So I just I don't really see the issue. Trigger Happy saying you have the culture. I don't know if anybody thinks Black Americans don't have a culture. I think no, I think when he said that they were robbed of their culture. So I mean, I think this white guy says that I know. Sorry, Coco said to be brief, so I was trying to stop saying something, but I'll just say that when this white guy is saying that, Sowell is arguing that we were robbed of our culture. And so yeah, I mean, the exact culture that you had before you came to America was gone, and you were rendered human chattel. Like you were no longer Songhai or of the Songhai Empire or the Mali Empire or what have you. You became human chattel, and so in that respect, there was a lot that was lost, and what was replaced with it would have been some of the overseers and the enslavers culture is what I take from it.
Yeah, that's what I take from it too. But what I'm picking up from, and thank you for that, Oni. What I'm picking up from Black Steel and Trigger Happy 262 and the Plus is that it seems Sowell is saying that blacks in America completely don't have a culture, which we know that's to be nonsense. I didn't know he was that high level of a Sith Lord to believe in such absolutes. Like I didn't know that. So I'm learning something here. He's on that absolute shit that yeah, no, blacks in America have no culture, no African pretensions, and of course we know that's not true. So that's what Bakari them are saying in the chat, which now makes me understand, what the disdain is and what's being said. But I think you're still correct, only that of course you're around. It's the same thing. I think if you're around these people, like for example, I'll be brief. My grandparents, I told one of this before, are from an island called Eleuthera, from a settlement called Topmet. These people had been around so many English people for so long, if you listen to these people, they speak kind of with a British accent almost. So it's to be expected. But anyway, let me stop for time's sake. Buana, I think you want to say something. Go ahead.
Yeah, Bree, quickly. The paradox, the ridiculous thing in what this white guy saying is, hear him now. He say that black folks are like the other people from Europe and they don't respect education. But he quotes a man who's who wrote a book, who is a PhD professor, a black man. So if we didn't appreciate education, how did he get that PhD? That's interesting. But let me say this though. Um, uh, I read some of Thomas Sowell's work, and I mean I know he's get a lot of brothers rile up, but I try to take a dispassionate view in terms of some of the ideas that he put forward. Some of them I think he get right. Some of them I think he get wrong. Some of them I think he just really trying to sell his book. People just leave that out of the equation. Some brothers are not necessarily completely academic. They trying to sell their wares, and he know in certain spaces, which is white folks who go and purchase his books, that if you put a little bit of that Brooklyn magic. I think you're from New York City. Put a little bit of that Brooklyn magic, sprinkle a little bit of racism in it. You'll have these white folks, jumping off of cliffs. And he get the result that he wanted because he sells many of his books. Would he have been able to sell as much books if he was just solely selling specifically to black folks? I don't know. But the reality is that within America and within the Caribbean and all these other places, we are attached and assigned to us a particular history because of where we are, our environments that cause us to be in particular areas. So we would have mixed with many different kinds of people. They would have made impressions on us, and we would have made impressions on them. The mutual exchange is not mentioned though, because just as the white overlords would have done things that would have passed off onto us, there would have been things that the Africans would have done. Not only the Caribbean, but in the Americas as well, would have passed off onto the European. This is why the European American is very much different from the European that lives in England and France and other parts of the world. They are very unique because their experiences are cross cultural. Where you have just a one particular man, a white man in Europe, because of the European white man experiences with the Indian man, the black man, the Chinese man, all these cultural exchanges would have made impressions on the mind of the people that have to exist in a particular space. So the end result will be people who their actions and thinking. So if they say that they take all the culture away from us, how much of that British culture that left them in living around a bunch of African people or a bunch of Indians or a bunch of Chinese? They're not completely Italian anymore. They're not completely English anymore. They have become something a little bit different now, since they live in a space where you had exchanges that existed for hundreds of years. So it's ridiculous to say, well, we've been completely denuded. So have you. If you want to have that kind of argument, there are some things that exist and still remain the same. There are some things, because our exchanges and interactions with one another, we no longer hold on to the mother continents and the countries of where we came from. This is a reality. This is why with Thomas Sowell, like I say, there are some things I believe that he gets right. There are some things that I believe that he gets wrong. Now, he did write a book called Basic Economics. I don't know if the brothers have read that. And he did write another book on economics as well. I don't know, so many people have read that, but it seems like some of the whites, they stick to the more racy sides. The conclusion he make in terms of the social interactions the blacks have in the Americas and other parts of the world. And I say, I think that Thomas Sowell sells sometimes information that he knows put money in his pocket. He's doing the Umar Johnson. He's selling to a particular crowd, so he's put the nonsense in that book. Does he personally believe these things? I don't know. But it's clear that I believe that there are some things he would have gotten right. We are not completely what we was when we came from or left where we came from. We are not, because of our interactions. Does that make us less? I don't think so. I think that makes us more, because now we more assigned to the global world, and we understand, and there are people that exist outside our small little purview. So we have a greater understanding of the world and interacting with the world. I don't think that makes us less, but I think that the brothers sometimes argue from that point, But if you want to go back to the Africanisms, or go back to this purest form of retaining African culture, just go back to Africa, like Oni suggests. Go back to Africa if it's an issue. If it's such an issue, go back and learn African language and integrate into society, and that's all good. But if you decide to stay in these parts of the world, then your relationship and your actions and interactions are going to be a little bit different. There's going to be adjustments that are going to have to made, because you living with the rest of the world, not just monoculture in one particular area. But like I say, I don't know why he's triggered so much brothers, but I try to read him with a very dispassionate view. But I'll stop there.
If you go to an English pub right now, you'll sure to hear some white Brits talking about wagwan. So yeah, you will be affected through the proximity, etc. In the chat, there's a lot of good comments. Bakari's out there. He said Thomas Sowell says our culture is poor white folks' culture. He's saying we have no culture of our own. Trigabi 262 says some scholars also argue that there was power in trading the marks of the previous nations from the continent. Brother Bakari says, of course, we got some stuff from them, but Sowell, according to Sowell, we got it all. Trigger Happy 262 says, I would add that colonialism also had this effect for the continent to a degree, but not the same degree you could say for the diaspora.
I would only remind the brothers that he is an economist. He is not an ethnoculturalist or I can't remember the specific term. So when he talking from his position and talking about culture, he talking from a layman's position. It's like me and you giving our opinion. Just because he's a doctor, that don't mean he have a particularity or a professional view in terms of talking about culture. That's not his lane. His lane is economy. So, like I say, but he just giving his opinion. He might have put it back in a book. But it would be more intelligent of us to refer to a black ethnographer or a person who studies culture to be able to explain what's going on in the history of the Americas and the Caribbean. So you read like black Africanisms and things like that. People who actually study the work itself and have degrees in that work. This is not his lane. Like it's like me taking medical advice from Oni. Oni don't have a medical degree. Oni's a physicist. So why would I go to him in terms of talking about medicine? You know what I mean? I should go to a doctor. So like I say, man, I don't take him so seriously. He's worked a lot of the black brothers up a lot, but I don't take him seriously when he's talking in terms of culture and history. He's not even a history professor. He is an economist. That's not his lane. You know what I mean? But I'll leave it, man. Coco, sorry for interrupting.
No problem. By the way, shout out to Provide Triggers for Evolution. I saw you in the chat earlier. Didn't get to shout you out. Also, Marcus Gavi is the way. I saw you out there too. Glad to have you ladies join us. Bakari says, so why use his work and defend some of it? I crap on everything. So last but not least, that brings us to Real Black Gentleman. Real Black Gentleman would say, let's keep it.
Well, I'll try to be brief. I mean, naturally, this white boy is trying to twist something and trying to turn something. I mean, naturally, look. So, like, all black people, like, what about these? Where are these people from Cornwall? Where are they at in the Americas? Like, you know what I'm saying? Let's like, localize this. Like, they weren't all over. You know what I'm saying? Not all people from Cornwall were all over. You know what I'm saying? There were Spanish people. You know what I'm saying? Down south. You mean, like, you know what I'm saying? Verb conjugations run all kinds of backwards. I mean, we're talking about the Spanish languages and the French languages. Yo, it's like all kinds of stuff. Like he's saying, he's trying to equate culture to language. I mean, yeah, I mean, there's some things that, but culture? Oh, hell no. That's a wild statement to say. Just like, oh, you were robbed of your culture. People say these things like, you going to have to show me You going to have to show me. You just say some loosey goosey shit. It's like with all these false equivocations right here. You know, a lot of the same values and a lot of the sameness, and even ebonics. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, look, black folks' language fixing and fitting to and how we cadence of everything. We can flip around on some Yoda stuff all the time. We know what we do. It's not necessarily just well, these people kind of say this too. That's just verbal conjugations. I mean, there's just always people are always going to wherever they are going to flip around their language. That's just what people do. They always trick up the whole like language pattern, the subject verb and all that. They'll do that all the time. He's trying to equate with. I mean, so I don't really give him no speed either. But I'm mad at this white boy for trying to like sit here and say, "Oh, we were robbed." You know what I'm saying? It's like that's goofy shit. That's all I want to say. Like, where are these corn walls at everywhere, yo? Like, these corn walls were not everywhere. So it's like you can't sit here and say that, like, well, because black people say this. Well, these people said this in this commercial. Man, come on, man. You know what I'm saying? That shit's insulting.
RBG, really quickly, since you mentioned it, what are the influences on Black Americans from the Spanish in terms of language, culture, what have
I mean, when you talk about the French, I mean, I think that the French would have a little bit more than it's just, I mean, maybe just on the strength. I mean, I think that it's a lot of the verbal, you know what I'm saying, you know, flippery comes from the fact that even English and French don't even have the same language patterns, yo. I mean, it's just like, I would never attribute all that to like an incident of language in one part of England where they say be. Basically, that's his argument. Well, the black folks say I be, and you know, as in this commercial in this place in England, and therefore all black people robbed. You know what I'm saying? It's loosey goosey, yo. Culture, robbed of culture. You know what I'm saying? That is sensationalism, yo.
All right, much appreciated. Thank you guys for allowing me to post that bonus prompt. That's all the topics for tonight. I want to thank everyone who was involved. Makari, Afro Native World, Trick Happy 262, KW Don 7, Sister Raw, Marcus Garvey is the way, Provide Triggers for Evolution, Daily Affirmations by Pauline. I want to thank Real Black Gentlemen, Erzuliism, Buana, the Pro-Black Perspective, and Black Steel. Before we go, I'd like the panelists to give a shout out. Could be something you have going on, something positive you saw in the Black world, whatever it is. Let's start with Black Steel. What do you want to shout out this week?
Let's see. Let me think some positive I seen in the Black world. Man, I should see Black people just out here trying to make it daily. Something positive. What's his name? Derek Chauvin getting stabbed. Even that wasn't by a Black person. I'm just happy that happened. He got stabbed 22 times in prison. The man who murdered our brother George Floyd got stabbed 22 times. So he didn't die. So that means his suffering is just beginning. So I just want to shout that out. Henry Kissinger died. He's a mass murdering psychopath, but he lived to be 100, so that's not really a win for us. But yeah, Derek Chauvin getting stabbed in prison, that's really something I'm happy to hear about that. So I'll leave it there. Have great show. I hope to see everybody next week.
All right. Take care, Black Steel. Hope to see you next week. Pro-Black Perspective, Oni, what do you want to shout out this week?
What can I shout out? Oh yeah, I finally finished a paragraph. It was took me a really long time to do this paragraph because I wanted to really research this topic. So I finally finished this paragraph and I'm moving on to another. So, you know, very slow progress, but I think I'm gonna try to release this book of mine in 2024. Just because I keep talking about 2023 and it's like, you know, I'm like, hey, this is happening in 2023. This is how, you know, and it's like, who gives a shit, you know? It's a new year. So hopefully, you know, I'll be ready for the next year to speak, you know, to be like this guy, Saul, and talk about health issues when I'm a physicist, contrary to what Buana said, right?
Thanks for coming through. Do you have your show in the morning?
Oh yeah. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do, so I'm thinking I'm just gonna go through some of the conversations on Twitter or something. I don't know.
Cool,
We'll see.
cool. Okay. All right. Make sure you guys tune into Oni. Also, Ben Uko was here tonight too. I don't want to forget him. RBG, you want to shout anything out this week? All right, I think RBG is gone.
No, thank you, for allowing me to speak. I enjoyed, you know what I'm saying. I kind of came in late, but you know what I'm saying. Thank you for, you know what I'm saying. I'm glad I was able to say what I wanted to say. You know what I'm saying. I hope everyone has a great night.
Yes, indeed. Make sure you guys who are listening hit the like button. Make sure you hit the like button and share the show to your social media. Last but not least, Buana, what would you like to shout out this week?
I don't know what happened to my thing. Yeah, can you hear me? 1, 2. Can you hear me?
All right. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, two things. Shout out to the death of Black Steve. What's the guy's name now? And how he just died at 100?
Kissinger.
Yeah, shout out to his death. I'm glad he's dead. Maybe he go. I hope he's in hell like with the rest of all the American presidents. But hell don't exist. But also shout out to Burkina Faso or Niger, which is now like the fastest growing economy in the world right now. I think they got rid of the French CFA, and they have renegotiated a lot of the international contracts since they got rid of the French. So I think it's either Burkina Faso or Niger, which is supposed to be the fastest growing economy right now. So shout out to them brothers for doing what they're doing right now. And I hope that they defend what they trying to get, defend it. It's all about defense. You know what I mean? You could be getting in the money, but you have to defend that and be willing to fight for it and die for it. But shout out to them brothers and doing what they doing. But that's really it. Thank you guys, for coming on and giving your contributions. I really appreciate y'all, man.
Yes, indeed. Likewise, I appreciate all of you. I think I might be on actually sometime this week. I found this old paper on re-Africanization. I want to read through it with you guys live. So look out for me during the week. In any event, in the meantime, check out all the other shows on KWAZ Radio. You guys be good. I'll see y'all next week. Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast with your host, Koku. If you like what you just heard, we hope you pass along our web address, bittermedicineblogs.com, to your friends and colleagues, and share our show to all your social media. Be sure to check out our archive section on our website for previous podcasts. This has been a KWAZ radio production. Join us next time for another session of the Bitter Medicine Podcast. Follow us on Facebook at Bitter Medicine Show, Twitter, Bitter Meds, Tumblr, Bitter Meds, Instagram, Bitter Medicine.